For page 28, we're going to go over all of the methods that we've used so far for solving a quadratic equation. Things like taking square roots, factoring, completing the square, and quadratic formula. The only one that's not on this tab is going to be by graphing, and so that's what we did on page 27, so you'll refer to that. So first thing we'll do is we'll look at the first tab at top left by taking square roots. So we'll look at this example. We use this whenever you have something of the form ax squared plus c equals 0 where you don't have a bx term. You can also use it when it's in vertex form or a form that looks like it's going to be in vertex form, a parentheses x minus h squared plus k equals to y. And then you can start moving things to the other side and just getting the x by itself without foiling. The point here for this one is you do not foil to solve. You just go ahead and start solving. So for this one, our example is 2x squared plus 14 equals 70. So obviously you want to get this x by itself, so you subtract 14 from both sides. You get 2x squared equals 56, divide both sides by 2. You get x squared equals 28. And then you get x equals plus or minus root 28 whenever you take the square root. You would simplify this to become plus or minus 2 root 7. For the next one, for when you are using the factoring method, we have got a few that we've learned. So for example, you've got your a times c method where you factor by grouping after you split it up. We have the cross method that I showed you. You have the GCF. You always want to take out a GCF first if possible. From your Algebra 1 days, you should remember the difference of squares when a perfect square trinomial is. So you can go back to the foldable that we made that had all your different factoring methods. And so when we open up this tab, we've got x squared plus 2x equals 48. For factoring method, you want to make sure that you have it set equal to 0 first, so you have a trinomial on the left, and then equal to 0. For this one, I don't necessarily need to do my a times c method. It's a pretty easy one that I can use by unfoiling. So I'll factor this, and I'll get x plus 8, x minus 6, and that's set equal to 0, so I get x equals negative 8 and x equals 6. For each of these, you really should plug those numbers back in just to be sure that you're getting the right answer so that you know that you have it correct. For the next one, completing the square, it says here if a is not equal to 1, you divide all your terms by the a coefficient first before completing the square. And so for this example, we've got x squared plus 30x plus 104 equal to 0. Your a already is 1, so you can go ahead and start completing the square right away. So we'll take half of our b, which is 30. Half of 30, which is going to give 15. We'll square it. So I'm going to add 225 to both sides. You'll notice that I subtracted the 104 from both sides first, and so I've got negative 104 plus 225. Then I'll factor this perfect square trinomial here on the left. It'll be x plus 15 squared equal to 121. I can now solve this by taking square root, so this would be like similar to almost like a vertex form. This is what I was talking about earlier. So you would take the square root of both sides. Square root of 121 is plus or minus 11. The x plus 15, we'll set that equal to that. And then you'll subtract 15 from both sides. So your answer is negative 15 plus 11 and negative 15 minus 11. So your two answers are negative 4 and negative 26. And the last method that you just took notes on is solving by using the quadratic formula. You should remember this from your Algebra 1 days. And so we will use the fact that in this particular example, your a, b, and c, because this is not set equal to 0 just yet, you want to make sure and move the 10 over first to make it minus 10. So now that you have your it all on one side, your trinomial, you've got a is equal to 3, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to negative 10. So from here, you're just going to use the formula x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 3 is 12. Times negative 10 is negative 120. When you subtract negative 120 from 16, you'll have to add, technically, to get 136. 136 is not a perfect square, so you will have to see if there is 1 inside of it, which in this case is 4. 4 times 34 is 136. So I'll take out that 4 to make it a 2 when I do the square root, but I have to leave my 34 underneath the square root. So I get negative 4 plus or minus 2 root 34 divided by 6. You'll notice that all three of these terms are divisible by 2. So I can simplify that down to negative 2 plus or minus root 34 divided by 3. And that is all for this page.